You think you're helping your tomato plants, but you're probably killing them without even realizing it. If you've got yellow leaves, cracked fruit, slow growth, or plants that just look miserable, it's not bad luck. It's 5 beginner mistakes that almost every gardener makes. And the worst part, you're doing them because you actually think you're supposed to. I know, because I made every single one of these mistakes myself. One season, I lost an entire crop of heirloom tomatoes because of them. But fixing these 5 things is the reason my plants are exploding today. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 5 beginner mistakes that secretly stunt your tomatoes, invite disease, and destroy your harvest. And more importantly, how to fix every single one of them starting right now. And the last one is usually overlooked, so stick around to the end of this video so you don't miss it. If you want big, healthy plants and a massive tomato harvest this year, don't skip this. The first mistake, and honestly the biggest point of confusion for every tomato grower, is pruning. How do you do it? I see a million videos telling you to prune for better airflow and bigger fruit. So you go and you grab your shears, ready to be that garden master. But hold on, you might be cutting off your entire harvest. Here's the secret they don't always tell you. Not all tomatoes are created equal. There are 2 basic types, and pruning one is absolutely essential, while pruning the other is a disaster. So first you have the determinate tomatoes. Think of these as like a bush variety or a bush type. Varieties like Romas, Celebrities, or even a lot of those patio tomatoes, they are determinate. They're genetically wired to grow to a set compact size, spit all the fruit out in a few weeks, and then they're pretty much done. The fruit grows on the end of the branches, so if you start hacking off what looks like extra stems, you're literally cutting off the future tomatoes. Pruning a determinate variety can slash your harvest by up to 20, 30, and even 50%. So what is the fix with determinate tomatoes? It's easy. Just don't prune them. Only thing you should ever clip off of a determinate tomato is if the leaves are touching the soil to prevent disease or any foliage that is already yellow or dead. Otherwise, just let them be. Then there's the indeterminate tomatoes. These are the wild ones. The vining tops that just grow and grow and grow all summer long until the big frost shuts them down. Big boys, sun gold, and most heirlooms like Brandywines and Cherokee Purple, these are all indeterminate. These are the plants that are begging you to prune them. On these guys, you're going to see little shoots called suckers. They're going to be popping up in that 45-degree angle between your main stem and your side branch. If you let these go, they'll become new stems, creating a tangled leafy jungle. This is bad news. It actually kills the airflow, which is rolling out a welcome mat for fungal diseases like blight. The plant also wastes a ton of energy making leaves instead of what we really want, and that's the fruit. So the fix for indeterminates is to prune them every week or so. When the suckers are small, I'd say maybe under a couple of inches, you can just pinch them off with your fingers. If they get bigger, grab a clean, sharp pair of pruners. You'll actually want to train these plants to have 1, maybe 2 or 3 main stems. That's it. This forces a plant's energy into making bigger, tastier tomatoes and let that crucial airflow through. And a pro tip, always prune on a dry day and keep your tools between plants clean so they don't spread any more disease. I get it, after a long winter, the first warm sunny day feels like a starting gun going off. You've got an itch to get out into the garden and get those tomato seedlings on your windowsill that are looking so ready. You rush them out there trying to get that huge head start. This is a huge mistake. Planting tomatoes too early doesn't give you a head start. It actually sets them back for a whole season. Tomatoes are a tropical plant, so they hate cold. When the roots hit that cold soil, we're talking anything below 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 Celsius. They basically just shut down. They can't absorb water or nutrients, even if there's plenty in the soil. The plant just sits there, completely stunned and stressed out. Even worse, if the air temperature at night dips below 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius, you can actually get permanent damage. This leads to stunted growth, blossom drop, that's where the flowers actually just fall off, and a weak plant that is a magnet for disease. Honestly, research actually shows planting early doesn't even make your harvest any bigger or any earlier. It just causes problems. The fix here is simple: patience. Don't listen to the calendar, listen to that thermometer. First, make 100% sure the danger of frost is gone. Then, wait for the weather to settle, where the nights are actually consistently staying above 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius. Even better, get a soil thermometer. Wait for that soil is safe at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 Celsius. And for a week or two before you plant, you need to harden off your seedlings. This just means taking them and getting them used to the outdoors gradually. Skipping that step is going to be a recipe for disaster. All right, you've waited for the perfect weather. Your seedlings are hardened off and it's finally go time. So you dig a nice neat little hole just big enough for that root ball. You pop in that seedling and then you pat down the soil around it. You do this for almost any other plant, but for tomatoes, this is a massive missed opportunity and a mistake that can create weak or wobbly plants. See, tomatoes have this superpower. They grow roots all along their stems. These fuzzy little hairs you see, they're called adventitious roots, and they're just waiting for the soil to burst into action. When you plant shallowly, you're only using the roots from the bottom of that plant. This leads to top-heavy plants that can actually get knocked down or knocked over by wind, rain, or even the weight of its own fruit. And a weak root system is also way less efficient at finding water and food. The fix is a game changer. Plant your tomatoes deep. I'm talking deep enough to bury 2/3 of that plant. I know, it feels a little bit wrong, but you have to trust the process. So gently take and snip off those lowest sets of leaves, then place that plant in a deep hole or even in a sideways trench and fill it in so that the top cluster of leaves is showing. Every one of those fuzzy little hairs on that stem that's buried in the soil will become a new root. You're literally doubling or tripling your plant's root system in just one day. This builds an incredibly strong anchor and a huge network for soaking up water and nutrients. A deeply planted tomato is a tough tomato. It can handle drought, heat, and disease. And ultimately, it's going to give you a way bigger harvest. This tip is so important, and if you're finding it helpful, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I have so many more tips like this, and I don't want you to miss out on them. You're excited. You have a small garden bed, but a dozen tomato plants that you're just dying to grow. So you think, I'll just squeeze them all in. The more plants equal more tomatoes, right? Well, that's wrong. This is one of the most common and counterintuitive mistakes that you can make. Overcrowding doesn't just give you a bigger harvest. That gives you a garden full of stressed out, sick plants. When the plants are all jammed together, they are in constant battle for survival. Underground, the roots are fighting for the same water and the same nutrients. And above ground, their leaves are actually fighting for the sunlight, and sometimes they're shading each other out. This intense competition, it actually gives you a weak, spindly plant that actually produces fewer and actually smaller tomatoes. So the biggest threat from overcrowding is really disease. With no space between these plants, there's actually no airflow. The leaves stay wet for hours after it rains, or even in the morning dew, creating that perfect humidity for fungal diseases like blight and septoria leaf spot. And once these plants get sick, the disease spreads like a wildfire through your entire patch. So to fix this is to give your tomatoes the personal space that they need. Resist that urge to overplant. For determinate types, a good rule is to plant them about 18 to 24 inches apart. For those that are sprawling, vining, indeterminate tomatoes, those even need more room. Give them at least 2, maybe even 3 feet of space. and your rows between them should be somewhere between 4 and 5 feet apart, so you can actually walk through there. I know in the beginning it looks way too empty when you see those tiny little plant seedlings, but you have to picture what they're going to become. That empty space is actually your best friend. It guarantees every plant gets what it needs and provides that airflow, and that is your #1 defense against diseases. Water is everything to a tomato plant, but how you do the watering can be the difference between a thriving plant and a dead one. The classic beginner mistake is watering from above, showering the whole plant with a hose or a watering can. A ton of the worst diseases like blight and other fungi live in that soil. When you water from above, you splash those soil particles up onto the lower leaves. Those particles can carry fungal spores, and just like that, your plant is infected. Every time you water, and it splashes those spores a little bit higher and higher up the plant until it's totally consumed. On the top of that, inconsistent watering, letting the soil get bone dry and then flooding it, this causes another huge problem like blossom end rot and cracked fruit. So the fix here is a 1-2 punch. Change how you water and use mulch. First, always water the soil, not the plant. The leaves don't need water, the roots do. Use a watering can with a long spout, a soaker hose, or a drip irrigation system to get the water right at the base of the plant, keeping the leaves as dry as possible. Water deeply, aiming for about 1 to 2 inches a week. Encourage deep roots. Let that soil dry out a little bit before you water again. Second, and this is non-negotiable for any healthy tomato patch, mulch right after you plant them. Put down a 2 to 4 inch layer of organic mulch like straw, shredded leaves, or even pine bark around your plants. Make sure that you know exactly where that straw came from so it's not treated with herbicides that actually kill your plant. This mulch is a shield. It's a physical barrier that blocks the soil from splashing onto your leaves, cutting off the main highway of infection. Alright, so let's put it all together. First, know your tomato type and prune it the right way. Snip the viners and leave the bush types alone. Second, be patient. Don't plant until the weather is truly warm. Third, plant those seedlings deep to build a monster root system. Fourth, give your plants plenty of personal space for sun and air. And fifth, water the soil, not the leaves. And always, always use mulch. Gardening can actually feel overwhelming, but it really doesn't have to be. By avoiding just these 5 common mistakes, you're knocking down the biggest hurdles to an incredible tomato harvest. You're not just preventing problems, you're actively setting your plants up to be strong, healthy, and productive all season long. You've got this, I promise. If you pay attention to these details now, you'll be rewarded with more delicious tomatoes than you'll know what to do with. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Hit that bell notification to be notified when my next video drops. And leave a comment in the bottom if you made any of these mistakes yourself. I know I have. And like always, keep it growing.